Philip, if you want.
Perfect.
Okay, so thank you for everyone. We are starting. We are finishing we are finishing this journey with a panel of speakers to talk and to sum up what's next in alternate realities. We can call that alternate realities, mixed realities, virtual realities, whatever. And to sum up that, I have a few questions we can discuss and have your point of view from your perspective and your work. First, we all are impacted with the pandemic. So I would like to say how the pandemic impacts your work. Is it faster? Is it trigger new opportunities? How do you see the pandemic for alternate realities? If someone wants to start, maybe Tom.
Yes, thank you. Ethan, and maybe briefly, so I'm working for TNO, it's a Dutch research institute, and we've been working a lot on social VR. And this is, of course, exactly something that comes in very useful during this pandemic. People are stuck at home, stuck at locations, cannot see each other together. And social VR is of course a mean to again get together. What we saw is, of course, for our work, it became much more difficult. We used to go in our lab and to do tests, to have users in, to do tests with users. It was much more difficult to do physical work. On the other hand, there was much more interest from the markets, from a very large market now, on how exactly can social VR be used. For instance, we had very much interest also from elderly care homes. How can older people get in contact again with their family? Is that just by phone and by Zoom, or are there more immersive ways of doing that? And so testing indeed these with people not used at all to use VR, to get an immersive experience, seeing their family members again. So on one hand, it was much more difficult to do stuff. On the other hand, there was much more interest to get things done. So it was for us as an organization a challenge, but also fun because there was much more interest there. So basically, that's what we experienced.
Okay, thank you. And what about you, Gabriel? How has the pandemic impact your business?
I would say I have to agree with Tom. I think maybe we observed a similar situation. I would say, speaking for the R&D team, we were not really prepared for this. The company Niantic is very kind of founded on the idea of maps and going outside, exploring with friends in big groups, outdoors. And suddenly we were told to stay at home, and so a lot of the use cases that drove a lot of our innovations were sort of parked for a while to think more about either life at home or life when you are out on your own, trying to keep your distance from everybody. So from the research side and the development side, it's caused a lot of changes in our thinking in terms of how can we support people to get outside, be alone maybe, or just with their immediate family, and then take some of that fun back home with them. And so on the other side, as Tom said, for us, we found that a lot of the users of the Niantic products, the games, really turned to this technology in mass for entertainment, for a little bit of variety. And so I would say, yeah, it's a great opportunity, and it's a great challenge that now we all have to think about and rise to, is how to connect sort of the freedom of outdoors, even if you physically can't go there sometimes.
Okay, thank you. And what about you, Hervé? I assume that at HTC, there's lots of opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, in the enterprise, it also depends very much on the sector. But what I think generally speaking, it has accelerated. The fact that companies try in VR for more use cases that they were doing until now. But things we've seen, for example, in the car industry, some of the large car manufacturer design team have actually sent their workstation to the home of their team so that they can continue to work from there and do product review in VR while being remote. Yeah. So that's a and definitely that would not have happened without the pandemic, without people being obliged to work from home. On the other side, on the training side, you would say, usually VR training happens in dedicated room today in most companies. So those rooms were closed. Yeah, people couldn't come. So that's we've seen a number of projects in airlines, and that had to simply close their training centers. So that was a negative aspect. And I'd say another positive trend is the number of companies that have started to try VR collaboration. So it's now it's, I would say, before pandemic you had only kind of Teams or a kind of VR collaboration platform for small POCs, and the big change during the pandemic is that number one, all those VR collaboration have made sure they can provide also a 2D version that you can also basically connect to the meetings with a 2D screen, PC screen, or so that you have you don't absolutely need to have a VR headset to connect to a 3D world. It's almost all platforms. And the second, that clearly there is quite a number of mostly large corporate that have equipped a few teams to test VR collaboration in real life. So it's step one. So I wouldn't say we've seen companies deploying thousands. You're more in a teams of 10 here, 20 here, and but it seems to be a clear trend, something that will have accelerated that market adoption.
Okay, thank you. So there's many opportunities for customers to try, and it's good options to organize better, more device, more access for people who can't go to already their rooms.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can see one of the learning. Sorry to interrupt you. Learning we've taken. To support the work from home setup. That's the reason why we've included VPN support in the new product. And I think it's probably the only product in the market, but it's becoming very important now. And it wasn't in the past.
Okay. Okay. Yes, you have to provide the security and all things that company require to work remotely. Understand. And what about you, Sven? How does the COVID impact your business?
Yeah, actually, I have to say the pandemic came about a year too early for us because we were already in the process of doing captures. I mean, just a bit of explanation. So I'm running the volumetric capture studio in Germany, and with the technology, we are able to capture humans photorealistically for 3D environments. And with those cases, we did a lot of captures for training and remote work, so that you basically can have a professional captured in our studio, and then you can watch them in virtual reality or mixed reality directly on different locations, and easily expand those training scenarios. And when the pandemic basically came, we were already in the process of doing those captures, but all those projects were cancelled immediately. So we got like 90% of the projects which we had during this time were completely cancelled, because with the beginning nobody really know what would happen next, basically. But on the other hand, everyone was very much more focusing on the whole part, how to make things happen more easily remotely. And I think that there was it was a huge challenge, but on the other hand, also it gave a lot of opportunities and also provides more ground for future technologies now to build up on for future basis, because due to the pandemic, a lot of companies now have learned how important it is to provide those remote accessibilities and to provide remote training. And now we see since the pandemic is getting at least from the feeling to an end, we now have a lot of companies requesting for more precise projects. So they now have used this whole time to really look into how they can be more digitized for the future, how they can do workshops remotely, what kind of new headsets coming out, and how they can incorporate all these new technologies in their production pipelines. So they got a bit of, I would say, time to focus on new technologies. And in the end, or in the long run, I think this will help every one of us quite dramatically, because we're now talking to way more educated clients, which have much more focus on what kind of products they want to apply for their future. And I think this will help us a lot. And we see it now since the last weeks. We now have a lot of project requests, more than one project request per day, basically coming in now in our studio. And during the pandemic, it was really nearly to zero, which was quite impressive to see this this big going down in the numbers. But I think in the long run, it will have a big important step into the development of all the systems right now, and also for us.
Yes, 90% is very hard in this time. I understand. I know that there's lots of companies that had a project of VR, and they use the pandemic to use it. But obviously, you have to have things prepared in order to be able to move on. And it's like you said, it's everything about timing.
Yeah. Just a small thing, we also had to change some of our business directions a bit due to the pandemic. I think a lot of companies did it. So before we worked quite a lot in terms of this remote training scenarios, and also for events and venues to do captures there. But due to the pandemic, we switched over a lot for feature film productions to provide our services for very huge feature films where we use volumetric captures for movie productions, basically for the final screen, and not just for mixed reality headsets. And because those productions kept running, they didn't close down, and we have them directly on our location. So I think a lot of companies, at least if I heard, have altered their business models during the pandemic quite a bit.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the hardware, and let's talk about the future of VR. Let's say that the pandemic is behind us, I hope. And what do you think of now? People learn more about VR because they try projects, that they get sensible about all this subject. What do you think about the future of the hardware, and what will coming in the next year, let's say? Let's start with Hervé. I know you introduced already the new headset.
So I think we have to recognize we still in the early phase of immersive visualization. So if you project yourself in the next short term, 1-2 years, what you can say, we still going to be with products that are based on display, like the new VRIF Focus 3, or what the Quest 2 is, so products that are based on display with lenses. And the main improvement that we're bringing is the quality of visualization and ease of use. Yeah, that combination. So it means, and the reason why we focused on enterprise on our side is because there was a major, major hole to fill. It was not possible to scale. It was not for an enterprise. It was a nice product for innovation department, but it wasn't really possible to put into practice at scale. So we wanted to solve that. Now, if you project yourself a bit further, clearly what's one of the trend in the new family of product will be what you could call the viewer. Yeah? Like, the Ericsson team was mentioning their work on streaming over 5G. Clearly, once the 5G network rolls out, the edge computers also rolls out more, then it becomes possible to rely on viewer and to do the rendering in those edge servers. But I say it's the beginning because it's really just starting. The first commercial service of rendering has opened, I think, 2 months ago on AWS, and Azure is coming. So it takes some time to roll out. But if you project yourself, it's definitely one direction, and that will allow small and lighter product, which are basically viewers, and some will be connected simply to your 5G smartphone, for example. Yeah, the chips. Some will have completely 5G integrated, but some will simply rely on your 5G smartphone and will be cheaper.
And how do you see the future of the hardware in regards of how I would say that, how the content we want to display? Do you think we will still be with a headset? Do we move to something lighter like glasses or holograms? In regards of, I would say, content, like we talk about volumetric capture, we always want to display a lot of content that is heavy. So are we moving more to, I would say, light headsets with light content to talk to more and more people, or more specific industry and technical headsets to work to B2B? I don't know if I'm clear.
Yes, to you. I tend to say both. Are we moving to lighter, product? Yeah, I mean, it is required. It is what everybody would like. Is it what all the industry is trying to achieve? So it just takes a number of iterations to do that, because all technologies are not available yet. But yes, in the end, it will happen. I think you mentioning also, holograms, and there's something that we all would like telepresence, yeah? And to be able to look in front of us and to have some remote family members or colleagues in that same room where we are, and interacting as if they were here. So but with what mix of technology will that happen? I believe that depending on your situation, you'll have different technology available. Something that relies on glasses will stay mainstream because it will make it possible at affordable cost. Whereas in some when you equip rooms, you'll be able to have more hologram projected in a sense, but there is the cost behind that is not likely to be able to be accessible to individual users in the short term.
Okay, and for instance, Gabriel, do you have in mind some target devices for Niantic? Are you still on the mobile phone, or do you think in the future about other kind of hardware, like headset, glasses, or things like that? Do you have a strategy behind that?
Yes, we are definitely thinking about these, and so mobile is here to stay, but these opportunities are obviously exciting, and so we've been, I guess, collaborating in a small extent with Microsoft and HoloLens, but also with Qualcomm about the idea of headsets in general. So especially Qualcomm and at that level, because we really look forward to a world where headsets are quite inexpensive and very lightweight, and where there will be opportunities to kind of function normally in your day, just like I'm wearing glasses now, but with the opportunity to have this extra sort of access. And so we're actively looking at this, but it's not tied to any particular platform or protocol, because I think the space is there, and different users will have different physical needs and physical platforms. So for us, it's really about the kind of the data layer and this opportunity for the system to know where you are and what you're looking at. It's sort of less appealing for me. For instance, if we have to explain to the system, okay, well, I'm in the store now and I can't remember which item I'm supposed to buy, or if I'm a tourist and I'm trying to learn something about the environment in front of me, if I have to sort of point everything out to the AI manually. So I think this is a great opportunity, and in a way, all progress is good progress.
Okay, thank you. And then now I think we can move on social, on gaming, because what we see is that more and more VR, it's not an experience alone, but more and more interaction with people. And for instance, at the last test built, Microsoft show Microsoft Mesh, but all other companies are also, it's moving. Sorry, my slides are moving. And everything is moving very fast. So Tom, how do you see volumetric capture in regards of social, on gaming, on how people interact with each other?
Yes, I think it's an important one. The social elements in a virtual world. It has shown there's a lot of production of 360 VR, for instance, and it's nice to do that. It's nice to look at it, but it's even much nicer if you can do that together. There are, of course, already a lot of applications that providing that, but the question is, how will that evolve? Volumetric capture is something that we believe in as a addition to what we're experiencing today. Avatars can be good for a lot of applications, can be a good for a lot of social contact, but we also believe that volumetric capture, where you exactly in real time or film capture the video of someone as they really are, that adds a lot of elements in what you're showing. Especially, for instance, like today, we never met before. I don't know how you look like. I don't see now how you react and so on. These elements are very important in a social interaction when you meet new people, but also when you meet your friends. So that volumetric capture will add all of that. You can compare that with video conferencing. When you have a video of someone and you look at how they react, it's much more immersive, and you have much more contact with the other people when you really see how people are and how they react. So basically, these elements, I think they are important, but they are still far away. This is not something that is today easily implementable. There are not so many applications yet that prove that, and of course Microsoft Mesh was a very big introduction, but still this is a development platform. This is not something that as a company you can go to and say, yes, now I want to deploy this and have this for a Laval Virtual 2022. So this is still work in progress, but we see a lot of happening there. As for instance, mobile phones with very good depth cameras and LiDARs that you could use to capture the volumetric image of someone's body, someone's torso. So I think this is really showing an advancement, but I also think that this is something that still needs some years to come.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's the future of all this also is to share the mesh of capture, because we need all devices to work together and to be able to share what people capture with their leader, with their devices, with things like that, in order to be able to have a great experience. What about you, Sven? How do you see volumetric in regard with social, maybe work and gaming on your side?
Yeah, I think we have to differentiate a bit between like the full volumetric experience where you have a person captured with a very high resolution, which is I think for real time quite hard to do right now. I mean, when we do a capture in our studio, for example, we have 2 terabytes of data per minute, and this isn't something we could easily tackle in real time in the very near future with 5G or whatever technology comes out for transmitting the data, because the processing and everything is quite intensive. So I think there will be like different forms of, I would say, volumetric for social media, where you have like, for example, we did a metaverse for a big telecommunication provider in Germany. We scanned the whole headquarters of them with LiDAR scans and photogrammetry to use it as a reference for the whole tracking. We used the Unreal glasses for the mixed reality content and created a software that everyone is basically completely in the same space, and they're all connected with each other via 5G phones. So this gave us opportunity to really see how interaction could work in such a space, because there's nothing out of the shelf you can directly use. And yeah, hopefully when mesh is available for everyone, then it will also solve a lot of those issues or give tools to make it easier to create such environments. But there we actually created an environment where we have all the players basically see themselves with live tracking in this environment, and we integrate a lot of different volumetric content like news anchors, TV shows, and when you go over to a piano, you have a rock band playing there. And in this case, we simply used volumetric capture for those on-demand content. Once a user started something, everyone could see the same situation, so everyone has the same shared experience at the location, which is great. And everyone can see the other ones by seeing their name tags on their bodies, tracking with them, and also interacting with environments, like having mini games and so on. They're also going on, and this is very cool because it creates a social experience with all the people together. And in this case, we used volumetric just for the main actors and the main persons. I think in the near future we will have more technologies, like already mentioned, with phones which are able to use LiDAR scans and provide depth information to create some kind of more realistic representations of people in 3D spaces. But it will take still time until we have really full volumetric people in these environments being able to render it in real time. And this is, I think, something which is one of the challenging things. So I think in the near future, we will rely on systems like Kinect and smartphones to create like a lower quality representations in those environments, which is, I think, fine to get this live feeling and feedback from the persons. And for the main content, maybe if you have a big venue, you will have some of the main actors speaking there. They are pre-recorded and you can place them there, so you have the full experience in terms of quality. And I think for most of the audience, when they're there, it's totally fine to have like this lower end representation instead of having this high end stuff. But this is really more like a technology journey when we will reach a step where we can really create such content in this high resolution in real time. But this is still a journey to go.
Yes. I was talking at my first talk about Apple, who sold 100 million iPhone 12 in 6 months. It's huge. It's so many people with a LiDAR in the hand that will be able to capture so much things. It's really huge. And so let's talk about something that lots of people are talking about is metaverse. In order to be able to go at scale, we have lots of leverage to capture things, to work each other in the social way or in gaming way. How do you see the metaverse? And do you think we will be able to have only one metaverse to share everything? Or will we have a dedicated metaverse? And how do you see how we can work together between brands to be able to move on and to have something common, like when Facebook come to web, everybody went to Facebook because it's a way to be all together. How do you see metaverse? Maybe Gabriel, do you have an idea?
Sure. I see the metaverse as very much parallel universes, and we already live in this situation. I think the hard part is filtering out which how to see only one metaverse at a time, or only two or three, and not all of them. In other words, speaking from an AR perspective, it's very easy and dumb to create a situation where all digital content is visible to you when you look at when you go outside and look at some street or some location, and we desperately don't want that. We really want the relevant information only to be there, and maybe you have a certain interest in something, you have a historical interest, or you have a practical interest, or maybe you're just kind of exploring, and so you want some of that to be there. And so this kind of organizing of data is super exciting, and for me the metaverse is sort of this challenge of keeping things out, because pretty soon we think all the data will be available, and that's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yes, that's really great, and we are seeing very leverage on all these technology, very interesting. I will have to move on, and we can continue to talk about metaverse, and I would like to have your ideas, all of you, about what is coming next in VR, for what is the most important things. Maybe it's new devices, hardware, interactions, the way metaverse is moving on. I'll let you. What do you think about what's coming and that will be very trendy in the future? Maybe Hervé, would you like to start?
Yeah, it's always difficult to limit it to one thing, but it's obvious that in the headset side, in the glasses, how you want to call it, we still have a lot of room to progress to make it what we all want. Yeah, something that looks like sunglasses, and that is autonomous, easy to use. Eventually, connect to your phone, but that is really easy to use for everybody. So it's there. We're all familiar with the stages in technology. So it takes stages, and we're going through that. But yes, the glasses will become smaller, lighter. There's going to be there will be some big changes in display technologies, and we know the direction.
Yes, it will be a huge progress if we have light glasses and be able to have great experience. For me, I would love to see also a neural interface that will change many ways to interact. What about you, Tom? What do you think of what will be the next big thing in alternate realities?
Honestly, I don't see much big changes upcoming. But when I'm looking at the past, what we exactly need to avoid is see early introduction of stuff that is not of high quality, that is not very good to the user. We saw that, for instance, with the Samsung Gear and so on. Yeah, it was quite okay, but from a user point of view, it was not. It was just a gadget, and so that was a bit as an introduction to virtual reality. It was not the right way. So if this is going again with other technologies that we require in the same way, it might limit even the uptake of these technologies. So what I'm saying exactly is the most important things I will see happening is indeed really good quality, low costs hardware and applications. And applications can be business applications, but also the games. The games the virtual reality games are really very good right now, and not just adaptations of normal games, but really really built for virtual reality, and you can see that. And so it's important to have the hardware and the applications working together also. So is that the next big thing? No, it is the evolution. I think now we're in the era of evolution of the virtual reality and everything that's happening, and to have the really market uptake that we need to evolve and to make sure that that the stuff that people want can be developed.
Yes, agree. Seamless experience with quality and good user experience in order to like VR and all this virtual reality. And what do you think, Gabriel, on your side?
I think we are. I agree that we're going to see an incremental change. I think it's always going to be slow progress, but steady. And so I guess I don't have much to add in this case. I really feel like I just share the excitement, and am hopeful that it's a kind of responsible development, i.e. that we see that the technology is done in a way that that allows that's sort of inclusive. That would be my main request.
Thank you. Yes, more and more we are, more we will use to use all these technologies. And what about Sven? What do you think?
I think from my perspective, I think mixed reality will be one of the big things the next year. So now we have the first consumer mixed reality headsets on the market since a few months in Germany, and there are more like 10 different mixed reality headsets coming to the market by next year, all made for consumers and not for business, because previous devices were only made for business. I think this will be a huge impact on how we use content, how we consume content, and how we will communicate in the future. And I think this is a very interesting topic in the next years, which will come to us.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you to all for answering all these questions. We have lots of things to do in VR, AR, mixed reality to move on, but everything seems to be very bright and interesting, and I hope everyone like that. Thank you to all. I think we are finished, and I hope you will enjoy these sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Have a nice show.
Thanks, everyone.